And they did everything they did last year.
Yeah.
Went 11-5, won a playoff game with no offseason program, no preseason, new head coach who became coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski. That makes it even more amazing. The question is, will they and other teams have a full and meaningful offseason program this year? We spent a lot of time talking about the issue yesterday. The issue is still at full boil. The NFL unveiled its plan for the offseason program, and its centerpiece is a 4-week window from May 24 to June 18 of 10 OTA sessions, practices, practices not in pads, the core of the offseason program when offense, defense, special teams for the year get installed, and that 3-day mandatory minicamp. The union, Chris, continues to push back. And yesterday we didn't have a lot of the facts, a lot of the details about what the NFL was proposing. They're going to test these guys every day. The Mesa PCR on-site test, as reliable as the off-site test. You get an answer in 30 minutes. All the protocols from last year still apply. The union still opposed to the plan proposed by the NFL, still recommending that teams, specifically players, not show up for the voluntary portion of the offseason program. I still believe it's going to collapse. I really do. One key fact, Chris, and this is why I'm even more convinced it's going to fall apart. The week before the veterans are eligible to show up for on-field practice, that's when the rookie minicamp will happen.
Yeah,
and
right.
The rookie minicamp, draft picks, undrafted free agents who surely will be asked to commit, as we said yesterday, to showing up before they're given that contract.
Right.
And tryout players. You know, they'll have 40 or 50 guys or more in the building, on the field, before the opportunity even arises for the veterans to boycott. That's going to create some momentum that's going to be very hard to turn back around once you have all the rookies there, all the undrafted free agents there, whoever happens to make the team on a tryout basis. You think they're not going to show up the next week when the OTAs start?
That's right.
Hell no. They're going to be there. So I still understand what they're trying to do. It ain't going to work. It's not going to work, and it's going to give the NFL more power in the relationship when it fails. And I don't want it to. I'd find an off-ramp. Brandon McManus, the Broncos NFLPA rep, was trying to use the off-ramp yesterday, saying, well, now that we know more about the program.
Yeah, right. I saw that.
And then the NFLPA says, it's still not good enough. So there went that off-ramp. They need to find another one at some point.
Well, like your point, like about the veteran player after the draft, all that, like spot on. Like even before the draft. You know, as a veteran player, you know what position your team is thinking about drafting. You hear the rumors. You see things. Oh, I'm a middle linebacker. Whoa, everybody in a mock draft's got us taking a middle linebacker. Wait, or, you know, everybody says that's our biggest need on our football team. To your point, Mike, those kind of guys too, you know, virtual off-season drills, like what the hell is that? Like, hey, coach, look at me in my iPad. Does my technique right when I'm out here in my backyard doing like shuffles? Like what the hell is that? Hey, no, I need a coach to look at me. Are my hips, positioned the right way? Am I stepping the right way? Am I placement of my foot when I'm coming out of a break if I'm a receiver or DB? Like all those nuances are lost within, this whole thing. And I think a smart veteran player who understands like where he's at in his career and things like that, even before the draft, they're going to go in. They're going to go, wait, I got to worry about me. And I got to get better for me because I don't know if I'm going to be on this team next year and whatever else. And that's where I agree with you, Mike. I think it does collapse that way because I think you're going to have a few guys that just love football and want to get better, and they're going to go the hell with the NFLPA, and that's not going to be a great look for them.
Another thing that the NFL recognizes is that these players will be working out somewhere. And a memo that was sent to teams last night in response to the NFL's reaction to the NFL's virtual and on-field combined offseason program, the NFL reminded all teams, and I think this was a clear message to the NFLPA, if guys work out on their own and they get injured on their own, it's a non-football injury, and they don't have to be paid. That is the shot across the bow. That is the point that we made yesterday. If if Tom Brady calls you up and says, we're not showing up for the OTAs, we're not going to the team facility, we're going to have solidarity here, we're going to back our union brethren, but I expect you to be at the local high school at 8:30 a.m. sharp tomorrow because we're getting the playbook installed on our own, I'm saying, sorry, Tom, but unless you're going to pay my salary if I tear an ACL on that crappy field, I'm not going there. I'm going to the team facility. Sorry, but I got to take care of my family. And unless you're going to take care of my family, if I tear an ACL and they don't pay me this year, I'm going to go take that injury risk in a spot where I've got insurance in the event that injury occurs.
But I mean, that's a real aspect. I mean, you're right. It's warning, shot across the bow. I mean, that's what the NFL is doing. They're basically telling you, like, listen, this is a year that you're not going to get away with it. They're letting you know right now. They're trying to, like, set forth, normalcy back again with the NFL, the offseason. The coaches know how important it is. The owners and front office people know how important it is, not only for them to evaluate their own teams and figure where they're at. They know ultimately it's best for the players too. The players can say all they want. They're not right in this argument of like, hey, we're going to take the offseason off and do nothing. And first off, now the fact that we know that there's going to be testing procedures and all that, there's no excuse. There's zero excuse in the matter at all. So that's where, I'll disagree with J.C. Tretter, when some of the things he said, the younger guys want, the offseason off more, just as much as the older guys. The younger guys don't know what they want. You're asking a bunch of 23-year-olds that, hey, you can collect checks and don't have to work in the offseason. What do you think they're going to say? Well, no, I want to get back in there and grind it out. Like, that's just that. I mean, they don't know what's good for them. So I know that's what you said. I know.
Chris is referring to comments from Union President and Brown Center J.C. Tretter yesterday on the Rich Eisen Show here on Peacock. Let's listen.
Oh, I jumped the gun.
And then that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
You gave everybody an appetizer. Here's what he said. We'll have the dessert on the back end. Here's Tretter from Rich Eisen Show yesterday.
My job and our job as a union is to know what our players want, and this is what our players want. And we surveyed our players, and the vast majority of our players think the virtual offseason is the best for this year. And that wasn't just the veterans saying that. Just as many young guys, just as many guys with 1 year of experience, 2 years of experience, 3 years of experience responded saying that they think the virtual offseason is the best thing for them this year as the older guys did. So that's a narrative that just doesn't have any factor or proof to it. It's just used to try to divide the union, but we know what we want. We as players talk, and we as a union are in charge of representing what all players want, and that's what we're doing.
That response was given specifically to the question of what does Tretter have to say about guys like Bruce Arians, who say the veteran players are just looking to keep the younger, cheaper players down. And that was the response from J.C. Tretter, saying that they've surveyed the players, and the young players, first-year, second-year, third-year guys, also don't want to do it. Now, this opens the door to a question I'm going to ask the NFLPA. I want to see the survey questions. I want to see exactly what the question was. I want to see how many guys responded. My thought is, number one, the question was loaded, as you were alluding to earlier. Right. Hey, would you like to work more and make less money? Check yes or no in the big box.
Right.
Now, yeah, I mean, surveys are easily manipulated. Also, if I'm a first-year, second-year, or third-year guy who knows I've got a job and knows I'm going to get paid, I'm fine with no off-season program. I'm not trying to make the team. I know I'm on the team. And even though it's less applicable to them than the veteran players trying to save their jobs, the younger players would just as soon do what 21, 22, 23-year-old guys do.
Exactly.
And not be practicing.
Right.
They'll practice on their own terms. They'll be fine. I got a job.
Right.
But if you survey the guys who fall between spots number 54 and 75 right now, before, let's say 54 to 65, and then you've got all the draft picks and undrafted free agents on the back end who aren't even in a position to vote yet, those guys are all going to say, we want to be there. We need to be there. My agent's telling me to be there. Whether I want to be there or not, I'm going to be there. My spouse is telling me and asking, hey, wait a minute, don't you want a job? Don't you want, think about it. That's the other angle I was thinking of earlier. Spouse, significant other, mother of your child, anybody that you're living with who understands the connection between showing up in April and May and having a shot at being on the team in September is going to be advising you in no uncertain terms, as
Get
I
out
would
there and do
to
it.
a family member.
Right.
Get your ass to work.
That's right.
You got a chance to get a paycheck this fall.
Right.
And if you don't go, you got less of a chance to get one.
Yeah, that's right. And you got the advantage of going there and being in person. And Johnny, the guy you're competing with is at home, playing Xbox, Madden right now. And, he's not there. So go ahead, take advantage of that. Agreed. Or if you just ask an ex-player like me or a player who's just retired, they're honestly going to sit there and tell you that those early years of your career are important. The offseason, that's where the real growth is made. I don't sit here and think like J.C. Tretter's line. I don't think this was like a plan where he got together with other veteran players and they were like, hey, how can we get together and screw the young guys so we can last longer? No, I don't think it's like that. I think there is some, of course, real caring for the players in the situation like that. But, yes, you're asking young guys, young men, young kids. I look at myself back in those days. I was a young kid. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was good for me, And, yeah, you give a lot of people in that position, 23, 24 years old with a little money in their pocket already, and physically have always been gifted and be able to get things done for the most part, they're going to think, I don't need it. No big deal. And that's not true. They don't know what's good for them. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to say anybody's like ignorant or anything like that. I'm just saying they're young professionals. They haven't learned the ropes yet that way. And it does an injustice. And it did, again, I know J.C. Tretter made other comments too. It did the game injustice. The game wasn't as good last year. I know fantasy was probably awesome. I get it. But for me, for a guy that was pure X's and O's and everything like that too, I definitely noticed a notch down in the quality, especially on the defensive side of the ball, a little what we talked about yesterday. I know I'm not alone. Coaches in the NFL, Tony Dungy talked about it during the year. I mean, it was a real thing. So there was a lot of issues about not having an offseason last year.
I wonder if the union president was a defensive player, he'd feel as good about the way that the play went last year. One of his arguments, scoring was up higher than ever. Well, yeah, because defensive play was worse than ever.
Worse.
Look, Chris, I don't think that anyone is gathering in a smoky back room and saying, let's figure out how to screw the young players.
Right.
I just think it's inherent to this unionized workforce. It goes without saying, I am older. I am far more expensive. Guy who just signed an undrafted free agent contract is significantly younger. He's significantly healthier. He can do more things physically than I can, and he's a lot cheaper. And the salary cap this year is $25 million lower than where it would have been but for the pandemic, and they're looking to save wherever they can. If I can avoid letting that young kid take my job and bump me to the status of former NFL player or cast me out into that blender of where am I going to find my next job and which team is going to give me a tryout or a chance on the practice squad or whatever, I'm naturally inclined to support a situation where it's less likely that someone who is younger and cheaper and healthier is going to bump me off of the roster. So I don't think it requires a conspiracy or a meeting or even conscious thought.
Yeah.
It's inherent to the way this union is. That's the problem. And I'm not saying there shouldn't be a union for NFL players, but when J.C. Tretter says we represent the interests of all players, I say it's impossible. It's impossible because there isn't one cohesive set of interests. For veteran players, the interest is let's not have off-season workouts so we have a chance to make the team. For the young players, the interest is let's show up so we have a chance to make the team. He said people are trying to divide the union. It's inherently divided. He's trying to pull together something that can't be pulled together. That's the truth, Chris.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, yes, you're going to have a number of players who, of course, are going to disagree with J.C. Tretter's approach. And then far greater than that is the number of players who really don't know any of the details of the CBA or any of this that's going on. And they're kind of just, hey, whatever my player rep and the leaders on my team tell me to do, I'm going to do. I don't really know what the hell is going on. So there's people that are misinformed. And then, of course, there's people on both sides of the fence when things like this happen, too. You know, like you brought up yesterday, Aaron Rodgers, he didn't like the way things were going. He said, the hell with this job. I'm not getting involved in it.
500 members of the union didn't vote on a 10 or it was an ultimately 11-year collective bargaining agreement. 500 guys didn't cast a ballot in a union that had maybe 3,000, 3,500 total eligible voters. 500 didn't vote. Do you think they're engaged in a survey about the offseason program? Do you think they're going to do anything that anyone other than their agent tells them to do? That's the thing that's lost in all this. The agents are going to decide whether or not this boycott works, and the agents know my duty to my client is to help my client get and keep a job.
Yeah.
I'm telling my client, show up
right
for the offseason workouts, especially the younger guys who otherwise would not make the final 53 without those extra opportunities.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.